Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. I've been very much looking forward to this conversation and sharing Orlando's knowledge with you guys. I was introduced to Orlando, I don't know, a couple months ago, probably more like a year ago.
About a
So
year
it was
ago.
very timely. I was not concerned with cybersecurity, and then I went to lunch with a girlfriend who's a financial advisor whose office was attacked by some hackers. And I was like, wow, cybersecurity is actually a thing. This stuff actually happens. And I realized that I myself needed to have a cybersecurity system in place and was luckily introduced to Orlando, who is an expert in this. And I'm just, super excited to share his knowledge and expertise with you all. Orlando, thank you so much for donating your time to dump some knowledge on all of us. So with that being said, I will turn it over to you and I'll be monitoring the chat for you.
Well, I'm glad to be here today, and I appreciate you for having me on, Kate. So a little bit about me. Worked internally for an RIA for about 12 years. Kind of got into cybersecurity, I would say around 2012, 2013 timeframe. So what happened for me specifically that kind of led me into cybersecurity was our firm actually got hit by ransomware at that time. So we were one of the early victims of ransomware. Fortunately, the way things were set up, our security kind of killed it from like really encrypting everything. And we were able to recover from shadow copies, which now these guys have gotten so sophisticated and good at what they do that they'll go in and delete your shadow copies. You're not coming back that way in 2024, I'll tell you that. So the thing that got me when that all happened was, okay, we had security in place, right? It wasn't like we didn't do anything. We had a network firewall, Sonic Wall at the time. We had antivirus pushed out. I think we were using something like Malwarebytes and some other tools, and that didn't stop it. Someone got an email, clicked on something, ransomware ran wild and started encrypting all the files on the network, just client files, everything on the network shares. So all that happens, right? And we recover from it. And I'm thinking to myself, how do they do this? I want to know how you do this. And so that kind of led me into what's called ethical hacking, where you learn how to hack and you learn to do it from obviously an ethical perspective. And you go in and you're able to learn how to you learn how to hack computers, servers, networks. And what that helps you understand is how these guys are getting in, which then in turn helps you understand how do you defend against it? How do you protect against these things? And so that's kind of what led me down my like initial pathway into cybersecurity and ethical hacking. So after that, I kind of worked with that company for some time and just saw that there was a need across the board where other RIAs, other firms, other small businesses needed cybersecurity, and they really didn't have the expertise or the understanding of what it really takes. You come from like that old school thinking, or I guess like a legacy mindset of, okay, well, we have firewall, we got AV on, we're good to go. And even in 2013, that wasn't true. And now we're in 2024, and it's obviously even less true. Like you need a lot more than that to protect you against today's cyber threats, threat actors. So that's what led me to kind of start LiquidMo 2019 timeframe. I want to say about May. So my late father helped me get started there. Started as a cybersecurity only company. We have since incorporated IT support and other managed services. So we are a fully managed service provider. But with that said, our roots are in cybersecurity firmly. So we have seven individuals on the support side. We also have some individuals that help us with our cybersecurity internally. And we've also partnered with some of the leaders in the cybersecurity space to help us deliver services to our clients. So with that said, I meet with quite a few firms and talk to directors of operations and C-suite executives all the time. And there's a theme. So the theme is they come to us basically because they need to check the compliance check boxes. The SEC has mandated all these various cybersecurity things, and it's like you have to do these things, and where do you go to do that? And so they come to us because we're specific to RIAs. This is the field that I know how to protect. This is the vertical that I kind of cut my teeth in cybersecurity wise. And so I understand how you guys work, how to protect your systems, how to protect your clients' data. And so that's kind of how they come to us. And so there's a theme within that theme. That theme is, what are the biggest concerns? The biggest concerns are what Kate alluded to earlier with her friend, which is ransomware. That's an issue. Business email compromise is probably the second biggest issue. And then I would say third is remote/work from home employees. How do you secure your employees that are distributed working from wherever? And so those are, I think, three of the biggest challenges that firms face today is, okay, how do you protect against ransomware? How do you protect against business email compromise? And then third, your remote employees, how do we keep them secure? So when we sit down with them, one of the biggest things I try to get my contacts to understand is that your adversaries have a playbook. They really do. They have a methodology. It's not a haphazard attack. So take ransomware, for instance. Most people think, okay, they send out an email, you click on a link, boom, ransomware goes, everything, your stuff gets encrypted, and that's what happens. Not in today's world. Today's world, it's more targeted, right? So the initial step is they will do research on your firm. They will go out and see what your AUM is. So they look at your firm. Okay, this firm has $1 billion worth of assets under management. Pretty nice target. So what is actually happening is the clients that you support in turn make your firm a target. That's what's really happening here. So they see value in it because this is all about money at the end of the day. This is all financially motivated cybercrime. So that's what you're up against. So what these guys do is there's phases, right? So you have an initial access broker who will try to break into your systems. These are the guys that are sending out the phishing emails. They're infecting sites with malware to download on computers. They're doing things of that nature, right? So that's their goal. So they send out the phishing email, you click on it, or your employee clicks on it. Something runs in the background, and they may either be dropping loaders, droppers, and we're not going to get too deep in the woods here, but yeah, some of that stuff happens. So malware at the end of the day that helps them steal things that they need, or they send out like a traditional kind of phishing where they're trying to get you to enter credentials. And so that's how they get their initial access. So they're able to steal your username, your password, even worse with the loaders and droppers that I mentioned earlier. If they're able to steal cookies, that's even worse because then they can bypass your multi-factor authentication. But it's a whole nother level. But so that's what they're trying to do initially. Those guys aren't generally your ransomware operators. They literally do, as the name implies, just provide initial access. So they will sell your access to other ransomware operators. So that's the first like phase of the operation. Then they'll come in and they'll do reconnaissance on your network. They have like a playbook where they search for certain types of files on your network. So they'll look for your cyber insurance policy, which helps them set the amount of the ransom. So they'll look at what you're insured for and say, okay, they're likely to pay out X amount. And so that's what we'll request in our ransom. Then they'll start looking for sensitive client data. And what they do with the client data, it's not just the encryption that happens, right? There is a thing called double extortion. So what they do is exfiltrate your data first. That's the first thing they do. They get in, they start making copies of it, sending it out to their either their command and control servers or like a like kind of like a holding place for the documents or whatever. And that's the first part of it. I guess like the second part to that is they test it. They test the ransomware on a few systems to make sure that it works, that your endpoint security doesn't stop it, doesn't trip it, doesn't interfere with it in any shape, form, or fashion. And when they know they're good to go, that's when they deploy their ransomware. And so what happens in a double extortion situation is now they've copied all your clients' data. They've now encrypted your systems and they're telling you, hey, you want access to your systems, you have to pay us X amount of Bitcoin. And by the way, we also stole all your clients' data. So if you want that back, you're going to have to pay this X amount. So even if you have good backups and we weren't able to encrypt your backups, we will still make your clients' data available. We will sell their data on the market. So that's the second piece to it. So even if you're able to recover your systems, there's still that piece. So what do you do, right? That's the bigger question. So you know that these guys are operating, you know that they're able to accomplish these kinds of things. How do you stop it? So that's where I said before, they have a strategy. They have a playbook. They know what they're doing. It's very methodical. So do we. That's what we do on our side. We have a playbook. We're very methodical. We have a primary strategy, which is reduce the probability of a material incident, and that's the overall strategy. Then you have to have supporting strategies. So for us, our supporting strategies are strategies around endpoints, which are critical for your remote employees or your work from home employees. How do you secure these endpoints? That to me is probably the most critical. So endpoint security. Second is we take a defense in depth approach to doing that. So that's another strategy that we use. We employ zero trust, which I know I'm throwing a lot of terms at you here now, but it's just another strategy to help further secure your system. So with us, those are the things we look at. It's endpoints. How do we secure your email? How do we secure your Microsoft 365 identities? How do we protect your network? And so that's why we like to, that's why RIAs are like our particular vertical that we support, because we understand how you're set up and how you work. Now, you're very similar, but there are differences. We still have some clients that are literally 100% in the office, have desktops, have servers. But that's the exception and not the rule at this point. What we see more of is like a hybrid setup where they go into the office occasionally and like maybe 2 days out of the week they work. They work in the office 2 days out of the week, and the other three they're working remotely. So how do you secure them? That's a whole different strategy. So how do you secure 100% in office, hybrid, and then 100% remote? So for us, we have strategies for defending those three types of scenarios. So we could get into the strategies a little bit more, or if you were more interested in talking about business email compromise, Microsoft 365 security, I'm open to discuss that. So
There is a question on exactly what you're
yeah.
talking about right now. Like, is there as much of a concern if they're 100% cloud-based, if they've got nothing on their network? What's the concern there?
So the concern when you're 100% cloud-based is you still have endpoints. You're still, or a lap, excuse me. I got to get out of my techie mode. You're still using laptops. You're still using desktops. So you still have to have security on the devices themselves. You're still accessing email. So you need security around email. You're still using, in most cases, Microsoft 365, some cases Google Workspace. So you need to be able to secure those identities as well. So we deal with a lot of what we refer to as cloud-centric clients. And we also have, clients that are a hybrid. But yeah, there's still definitely a concern. And then you also have your employees that are accessing your custodians' websites and things of that nature. And you want to make sure you're doing that in the most secure fashion possible. So it's definitely important, even if you're 100% cloud centric, which is, I think at this point, makes up a huge percentage of the clients that we currently have. So there's still a strategy that needs to be put in place to, like I said, secure the laptops, secure your email, secure your Microsoft 365 identity. So it's cybersecurity still plays a significant part in that. And not to mention the SEC is not going to care. They don't care if you're 100% cloud, if you're hybrid, if you're all in the office. They're gonna want to see that you have a strong cybersecurity posture, or that you're at least demonstrating a adherence to cybersecurity. You're gonna at the end of the year, they're looking for what are you doing around risk assessment and things of that nature. So you still have to have something in place. And if you tell them, you know, hey, we turn on all our firewalls on our laptops and we deployed some antivirus, we're good to go. That's not going to really fly with them. They're going to want to know, are you doing anything around threat intelligence? Are you doing anything around the threat hunting? How do you find a adversary that's landed in your systems? If it slips past your firewall, if it slips past your antivirus, how are you able to then detect, you know, that someone's in your system? Because okay, so I'll back up just a tad bit to something I was speaking about earlier, reducing, you know, the probability of a material incident. So in my personal opinion, now the SEC may slightly disagree here, but personal opinion, one of the things that makes a incident material is dwell time. How long are they in your systems? So like I spoke about earlier, this is a multi-step process in most cases. It's not they're in and in minutes they've done everything they need to do. It doesn't work that way. It generally takes some time. So if you're able to detect them in your systems within minutes, within hours, you significantly reduce the impact that they could have in your systems and the damage that can be done, right? So you cut the dwell time. Dwell time, if you don't know, is the amount of time an attacker sits in your systems, where you're seeing some of these larger companies getting breached and they're having to come out and disclose what happened. And in most cases, you see the dwell time is ridiculous. Like these guys are in their systems for months, years. So if you can reduce that dwell time, you reduce the probability of a material impact. If they land in your systems and you have other cybersecurity controls in place to catch that within minutes, then that's a significantly different scenario from you don't have that in place. They land in your systems. They've been in there for months. Somehow you figure out that they're there, and then you find out, okay, well, they've been here for months, and now you're reporting on a Form 8K to the SEC, and you know, extending protections to your clients, like, you know, yeah, we'll help you with that because we were slightly negligent in that area and we got hit. So you want to make sure that you're covered from all facets. So for us, what helps us in that area is we have a security operations center that we partner with. We've actually partnered with two of them based on client needs, but they're able to catch adversaries in your systems pretty quickly. If they don't catch them, we have another group that's, to me, like the real specialists, the threat hunters. We started rolling that out to even our Mac clients. So our platform does actually work for both Mac and Windows. So if in case you were wondering, but so we just
That is
rolled
one of the
out.
questions.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, she
Yeah.
said, do you find security differences between firms that use Apple versus PCs?
It's a big difference. To be honest, I am a huge Mac fan. If you can't tell behind me, like that is one of my, that's the world I live in. Like I still use Windows as needed. And most of our clients are still on Windows. We do have several clients that are 100% Mac, and we do have a security platform for them as well. But they still need security too, but they are considerably more secure than Windows. I'll tell you this: like we also provide IT support, right? And a lot of times we're having to update systems, push out applications, and all that. And on the Mac, it's harder because they're more secure. So sometimes we have to reach out to clients and say, "Hey, we need to remote in and enable full disk access for this," because by default, Macs won't let you enable full disk access for everything, and you kind of can't deploy your stuff the way that you need to, and that's legitimate. That's when we already have access to the system. We can push out the software, but we still can't do everything that we need to do. And by extension, a attacker can't do everything they want to do when they land on your system as well. For Windows, if you want that same type of security, what you do is make sure you're not logging in as a local administrator. So we have quite a few clients that, you know, everyone's running as a local admin, and you know we secure them as well, they are less secure because of that fact. What you really want to do is have your employees logging in as standard accounts. So if an adversary lands on your system, they land on that system with considerably less permissions than they would have if they landed as an administrator. So there's that. And I probably missed some things that we were covering earlier because I go on cybersecurity rants because I am passionate. So there's that. Do we have any other
No,
questions?
I feel it. And that's Elisa says, wow, the knowledge in so many terms and concepts. Thank you for educating us. This is like so mind blowing to me. You and I've had this conversation before, but I was just shocked that these attackers are running like a full-fledged business. This is
Oh
like
yeah.
a higher crime syndicate. And it's they're like the fact that they can go undetected is so scary to me. I'm not even sure. I'm not even sure. Obviously, the reason they go undetected is because we don't even know they're there. I don't even know what it would look like to be under attack, unless, like my friend had, someone literally called to collect a ransom,
Yeah.
right? And
So you
when I
can,
heard that story, I thought these are like things you hear about in the movies, but it was
yeah.
no, it was a local firm, someone that I knew, and I thought, wow, this stuff is really happening. And so I'm agreeing with people commenting here, just how mind blowing it is, how robust and how well oiled this crime machine is. It's insane.
Yeah, they literally have like how we have software as a service, like you have your Microsoft 365 subscription or your Google Workspace subscription. They literally have ransomware as a service. So they will let you use their ransomware toolkit and they'll rent it out to you for a percentage of the ransom that you collect from your victims. They have customer service around that. So you could reach out and say, hey, I'm having trouble deploying my ransomware. It got detected by Windows Defender. How do I block that? And they'll send them information. This is how you disable Windows Defender. This is how you get around it. So it is a full-fledged business, and I could probably do a full webinar on just ransomware alone because it's mind-blowing how it works, how pervasive it is. They don't care how small you are. One of their, like I said, one of their biggest things is specifically, like to me, like with RIAs that have to be cognizant of this. One of their things is how much is your business worth? They don't care
Right.
about the size, so to speak. If they can, so you can Google a firm and figure out their AUM. It's not that hard. So they can find this kind of information and it's publicly available. They will look that up and make determinations after whether or not they should go after you. And generally the answer is yes. And you do have what they call like those are the manual ransomware operators. You do also have automated ransomware, and those are the ones that are like we call them spray and pray. Like they'll just shoot out a bunch of phishing emails, and if you click on it and you know you don't have any security in place that stops the ransomware from going into effect, it will encrypt your data. Those are not as prevalent and not to me as dangerous as the ones that are manual.
Mhm.
Manual, these are groups. These are groups of individuals that are working in concert to make this happen. So, and you brought up a key point that I want to discuss. He said, how would you know if they're even in your systems? How would you even know? You won't. This isn't the late 90s. This isn't the early 2000s where something pops up on your screen or your computer starts running super slow or you see the mouse moving around. You're like, oh, somebody's hacked my system. It doesn't look like that. So what it looks like, and I'll try not to get too technical here, but what it looks like on the back end is just remote consoles. And from these remote consoles, you can do anything on a computer. You can, and it's completely transparent to the user. The user never sees it. So even us, we're obviously not threat actors, but when we deploy some of our software, we'll send out like an email to deploy it, and it's just one click for our client or a couple of clicks for our clients, and they're not installing all the software we need, just one tool. Then that one tool goes down and pulls all of our other tools and installs it. So it's very quiet. It happens behind the scenes, but it's happening in what's called a shell, which is a command prompt. So once they have that shell and the shell access, then they can do whatever they need to do from there, and you're never going to see it. So how do we find that? We have like a security operations center in place. We have threat hunters in place. We're looking at different things than a typical person. Well, a person's not going to see a typical person not going to see anything, but we're looking for processes that have had like DLL injections. We're looking for certain commands that are run in like a consecutive order, like did they run a who am I? Then they run NL test right after that. So you start to see like if you start seeing those commands, it's obvious that someone's doing reconnaissance on your system. So there's that. We have tools in place that kind of help us in an automated fashion. So we do have endpoint security. We personally use SentinelOne. We do have a partnership with CrowdStrike, and we haven't really started deploying that at this point, but looking to deploy CrowdStrike as we move forward. Fortunately, I guess for us, we missed their big outage, so that's a plus. So yeah, there's so many tools that we have that we use to detect these guys in your systems, and that's just your computers. We haven't discussed what does it look like in Microsoft 365 when your identity gets compromised. Oftentimes, you don't find that out until it's too late, and you find out through your clients that say, hey, this happened, I received this email from you, or worse yet, they compromise like a high level employee, like a C-suite, and start sending out emails to like the accounting department or operations, and specifically operations because they're trying to get them to move money somewhere. So you'll see that where they'll impersonate like a CEO, COO, someone of that nature, and try to get your operations department to wire money, and they've been successful in doing that. So that's part of business email compromise, which you have to have layers around your email, and that's another thing we provide. So our email security is even layered. So we have our obviously the spam filter that sits at the front. Then for us, we have a transparent layer of security, is API security between the spam filter and your mailbox. We have another middle layer of API security there. Then your last actual real level of security is your employees. Security awareness, them being able to recognize, hey, this is a phishing email. I shouldn't click on this link. For us, we have let all of our clients know if you see an email that you think is suspicious, forward it to us and we'll take a look. The funny thing about it is we have like that API security. So a lot of times they forward it and it flags it immediately. And we already know, like before we ever get it, like it flags it and we see it in our ticket. So it's like, yeah, this is definitely a phishing email. If you clicked on the link, let us know because there's incident response that has to happen around that. And that's what our internal team, we handle what I call incident response light, because that to us is the light work. It's easy stuff, but it has to be done. And that's where if you clicked on that link where we're revoking sessions in M365, we're changing your password, and that's enough to thwart a hacker that's stolen your Microsoft 365 credentials. So a lot of times people will just change their password. Well, if they've stolen cookies and they have a session cookie, it doesn't really matter that much. They're still able to get in because their session is still live. They can do other things. So you want to revoke all the sessions first, change password, and if that client for some reason didn't have multi-factor authentication enabled, then you make sure that they get that enabled. So
This is
there's
so crazy to me. You've given me so much peace of mind since we've been working together because I get those phishing emails and I love to be able to send them to you because they're scary. Now knowing what I know, it's like, oh man, um, you got to be watching your back, and it makes me feel good to know that we have that level of support and somebody watching our back for us. I have another question here,
sure.
talking specifically about your service offering. I dropped your website in there if anybody wants to get a hold of you. But Brenda asks, since you are RIA specific, does your offering help us address the SEC requirements regarding IT and cybersecurity? Also, if the SEC rolls out another rule or regulation, does your firm start building out processes and stuff to address that and keep us compliant?
Great questions. And the answer to both of those is yes. One of the first things we like to do, and Kate, you know about this, we like to come in and write a written information security policy if you
Yes.
don't already have one. So we have two types of policies that we'll put together. One is for our we do have some non-RIA clients on the cybersecurity side. So there's a policy we handle for them. And then we have a policy for our excuse me, RIA clients as well. And it's based on CIS controls. So we take those controls and we map them to the actual security controls that we have in place for you. So yes, we do handle that specifically for you. If the SEC rolls out something, yeah, we'll address that. I'll be honest with you, like our cybersecurity is so in depth. I don't see the SEC being ahead of something that we're doing. You know what I mean? Like I just don't see that. I feel like they're actually at a point where they're finally kind of really starting to understand cybersecurity, to be honest. Like I remember some of the requirements, a few years back where it's just like, okay, they don't get it. And at least now they're starting to understand. There's one aspect of it I am not a fan of, and that's the 4 days to disclosure. Like if you have a material incident and you discover that and they're wanting you to disclose that in 4 days, I'm not a fan of that. You have to adhere to it, but to me, that's not helpful because that becomes public. And you know who else is looking at that? Threat actors. They literally I remember they had one particular incident. They compromised the firm and the firm didn't disclose. And so the threat actors complained to the SEC that this firm was not being compliant, really, in real life. So like they're watching for this stuff. So like if they see that, and the reason it's problematic is because they know you now have pressure, and it kind of helps them facilitate what they're trying to do for other reasons. But yeah, if the SEC comes up with something and we need to put something in that we don't currently have, we'll definitely do that. That's pretty much our primary goal for the firms that we support.
For anybody who's interested, I'm curious, what is the best way to get in touch with you? What is your process for kind of putting together a plan for firms? Can you explain a little bit about what you guys actually do?
Oh, definitely. So the best place to get in touch with us is at our website. So you can, submit a request for a meeting. We do our discovery meetings. I like to do most of those because, like I was telling Kate earlier, for me, this is stuff that I know so well that I have a pretty decent memory, and I lock in how a firm is set up in my mind. Like so, then I kind of know what we need to put around that. So I like to do the discovery meetings personally. So you can schedule a meeting. It's generally going to be with me. We sit down and discuss how you're set up, what your needs are, what you're currently doing. We'll generally do a risk analysis because we need to figure, or a risk assessment because we need to figure out where you are. Like it's hard to determine where you're going if you don't know where you already are. So it's kind of a gap assessment. So this is where you are. This is where we need you to be, and that risk assessment helps us get there. But we sit down with you, do the discovery meeting, figure out how you're set up, and from there we'll send out a quote and you can determine. What we generally do is give you three different options. The first is it's going to cover all of your basics. We call it the essentials. So it'll cover the basics. Second is our plus plan, and plus it takes it a step further, but it gives you some added layer of protections that you may not have to have, but they would be good to have. And then premium is you get everything. You are covered from every angle that an attacker can take. So one of the ones we have in our premium plan is our Perimeter 81, which they got purchased, so now they're Harmony SASE or whatever. But anyway, it's a really good tool for remote employees. So that's one we tend to include for employees that are cloud centric. So you can do some really cool security things around that, and to me, some really necessary security measures and controls around that, like even securing access to your custodians if you're able to do IP restrictions. So then you can use that gateway of your perimeter SASE and use that to do IP restrictions and thus give your employees a more secure way to access company resources or your access to your custodians portals and things of that nature.
There's a question about, do you bill based on the firm's AUM, or how do you structure your pricing?
No, it's a per user per month pricing. So we treat a solo advisor the same way a hundred, 100 employees would be. So it's not any different. We're not going to say, hey, the biggest difference is you'll, to me, I think if your firm is big enough, if your infrastructure is slightly complex or you're hybrid, I would say go to the premium because you're going to need it. For
Mm-hmm.
some from like a solo advisor, a lot of them are just, like I said, it's an individual working from home and doing their thing, but they still need security. They still need to secure their laptop, their email, their Microsoft 365. So for them, it's going to cost a lot less because the complexity is not there. So not based on the AUM. So we don't really do that. So it's pretty much the standard pricing across the board. So it's
Cool.
not the only reason it's going to cost you more if you're a bigger firm is because you have more employees to secure and
Makes
probably a
sense.
more complex infrastructure to deal with.
Wow, good questions. This is so insightful. This is a webinar I've been really looking forward to, because last time we geeked out on this, you like completely blew my mind. And I getting a vibe you're blowing everybody else's mind too. So thank you for volunteering to hang out with us and share your knowledge with us. Uh,
Definitely.
do you guys have any more questions? We've answered everything that's come through the Q&A, but we've got some more time if anybody has some more questions for Orlando. Well, while I give people a couple of minutes. Okay, here you go. Have any of the firms you've ever worked with been hacked?
Fortunately for us, not hacked in a very serious way, breached from a Microsoft 365 account perspective. Because that's one of those things that happens while so happening in that situation. I say breach. They were able to figure out or find this user's credentials. I don't know if it was dark web kind of thing, and this person reused passwords or something like that. We need to talk about that, but I haven't talked about it. But they had his username and password, right? And they tried to log in as this user. It didn't work, so they didn't get in. But we could see that they were attempting to log in, and the only thing that stopped them was multi-factor authentication. So for us, one of the things we put in place is conditional access policies around multi-factor authentication for our Microsoft 365 clients. So that stopped it. I'm trying to think of if there was one. No, there was one. There is one that got in, and it's been some years, but that person did not have multi-factor authentication in place. They used not a public computer, but like the guy went and visited his parents' house and he used their computer. Somehow his credentials were stolen. The hacker used them to log in. Our security operations center caught it, and they can automatically like isolate your host or block your, in this case they blocked his user access. And the only reason he found out is because he couldn't log in because they
Mm-hmm.
blocked it. And so he's
Right.
trying to log in. He was like, hey, I can't get into Microsoft 365. What happened? And then we were able to find out the SOC. In this case, I think it was the threat hunters that actually blocked his access. It was like, well, your account is blocked because there was a unusual activity or unusual login on your account. And someone had logged in from some other, it wasn't even another country. It was just a different state, because we generally go in, and if you're a US based firm that doesn't have anyone working abroad, then basically we put in a policy that only allows access from the US. So when you do that, you can kill a lot of potential threats where people are trying to log in as you from Russia or China or wherever. So they automatically get blocked by this policy. But yeah, so what happened with him? They blocked his login. Threat actor couldn't log in. Obviously, he couldn't log in either. So we had him change his password. We enabled MFA for him, and we did some other things. But yeah, that was a few years ago. I almost forgot about that one. But our current clients, the last few years, been some Microsoft 365 stuff, but none that have actually gotten in and done damage. So yeah,
Dang, scary stuff.
it is.
Is it common for you to provide only cybersecurity services for a firm that already has a vendor for general IT?
Oh yeah.
This might beg the question, should the expectation be that your IT vendor also provide comprehensive cybersecurity?
Not necessarily. We do provide cybersecurity for firms that already have IT support in place.
Okay.
That's perfectly fine. Like, and to answer that second question, no, it's not commonplace to have your IT support do your cybersecurity. Like I said, for us in the beginning, when I mentioned that we started as a cybersecurity company, we we bought in IT support kind of like a by popular demand kind of situation. We
Yeah.
have engineers, like high level engineers that do our support. They know what they're doing. So we offer support. For us, it's we're 100% remote. So for some clients, it doesn't work because they actually need someone on site to swap out the desktops and set them up when a new employee is coming in and all that good stuff. So no, we can provide cybersecurity only. It's not common for your IT support to provide true cybersecurity. Some of them will say that they do, but it's like they're deploying their what we call RMM tool, their remote monitoring and management tool to manage the endpoints,
Mhm.
and they're installing whatever endpoint security comes with it, like Sophos or what have you, and then they say, "Hey, you have cybersecurity." It's like, well, no, you have endpoint security, but you don't have cybersecurity. You have one measure of security, not a full, all encompassing security setup. So no, it's not common, and you shouldn't expect it of them. What you should expect is that at least that they're doing, like, some of the basics, but they're generally not they're not experts. I liken it to sports, right? Like, cybersecurity is not the same as IT. It's not. People think it is, but and it all falls into technology. There is some overlap, but cybersecurity is a completely different discipline than IT. So
Yeah.
yeah, don't expect your IT provider to provide you with the level of cybersecurity that the SEC or even your clients are going to expect you to have. So there's that.
It's incredibly insightful. We're gonna have to do this again. This is gonna be something that we have to revisit like every year because
Yeah,
they just, just like your systems are getting more robust, the hackers are getting more robust. It's just
yeah,
wild.
yeah, yeah. We see them using AI to help them out with better phishing emails. So now their phishing emails sound they're great. Like, I've seen some of them where I'm like, man, that was nice. Like, it was really well done. Nothing would have tipped you off that this is not legitimate. So that they're becoming more effective with that, like in hooking people. And then they're also getting better with the excuse me, the scripts that they're writing, the tools that they're
Mhm.
using, because they're using AI to kind of augment their abilities. And yeah, it's it's a different world that we live in. And yes, they're definitely getting better. That's for sure.
Well, I feel very lucky to have you on my team, and I'm sure
Thanks.
everybody else's head is just spinning right now after all of this information. So, does anybody have any other questions? This has been great questions and great presentation, Orlando. A couple people have said that you are a wealth of knowledge. So I
Appreciate it.
appreciate you sharing your knowledge with all of us, and your passion and dedication to your craft, and the ability to be able to help these RIAs and these firms is just so valuable. So thank
Thanks.
you.
Yeah, I love it. I could talk about cybersecurity all day, but I'm sure
We're gonna
nobody's
do it again. No, I'm not kidding. We're gonna do this at least once a year because there's a
I'm
demand for it.
in.
There's a need for it, and
Yeah.
I want to continue to dive into this more deeply with our community. So that being said, I don't have any other questions coming in. I will not hold anybody hostage. But um, yeah, reach out to Orlando. I dropped his website in there if you guys have questions or want to take a deep dive into your specific firm.
Or if you just want to reach out and just have a discussion around cybersecurity and you're not actively looking to purchase services, I just enjoy talking about it. To be honest, like if a firm wants to sit down and just have a discussion, let's talk. So reach
Got
out
it.
to me.
You're very generous. I appreciate you, Orlando, always. I look forward to the next time we get to chat, and go Padres.
Go Dodgers.
I'll see you soon, my friend.
Thanks, Kate.
Bye.